What's up guys, this is the full in-depth guide on how to set up your Omnibar add-on. This add-on is very useful for 2v2 and 3v3 arenas to track enemy cooldowns. The main type of cooldowns you want to track for all classes are their crowd control, offensive CDs, defensive CDs, and in some cases it's good to track the mobility of some classes. Here's how I have my Omnibar set up. I stream a lot on Twitch, so go follow me for high-rated PvP, or if you have any questions, just type them in the chat when I go live, and I'll be sure to answer them. Alright, so how to set up your Omnibar. First, you want to go to your interface menu, you go to add-ons, and then you press Omnibar, or you can also type /Omnibar into your chat window, and then it'll pull up this menu as well. You'll see 4 tabs under lock and delete, and you want to go to spells tab. So I'm just going to show you what I have set up on my Omnibar for each of the classes. Quick side note, all class interrupts are checked by default and are already tracked on your Omnibar. We have Wraithwalk, Blinding Sleet, Anti-Magic Cell, and if you are a caster, it is good to track Dark Sim so they don't steal any beneficial spells that could give them a great advantage. You want Unholy Assault. This is Unholy DK's big burst. Anti-Magic Zone. Icebound Fortitude, really important. Death Grip, very important as well. Death's Advance is some mobility, so you don't have to track this if you don't want to, but I like to track it. So if a DK uses this, they can actually run through my Ring of Peace. So I want to have this tracked on my Omnibar as a Windwalker, just so I can know when he's going to be using this ability and when I can use my Ring of Peace. Chill Streak and Pillar of Frost, really good for Frosty Case. This is their big damage, and Asphyxiate is their stun. Alright, so for Demon Hunters, Fell Eruption for their stun, Metamorphosis, their big damage cooldown. If you're a melee, then it's good to track Blade Dance, so if you're doing something like, let's say if I'm going for a Rising Sun Kick, I don't want them to parry that, or a Leg Sweep, I don't want them to be parrying either of those abilities, so I'll be waiting for Blade Dance to be down before I use those. Blur is good, that's their defensive cooldown. Darkness is very good as well. You can Ring of Peace the Darkness to boot them out of it. Same with a Death Knight's Anti-Magic Zone. Chaos Nova is good, that's their stun. Imprison is their in-cap. Rain from Above is good to track if you're melee, and Reverse Magic as well for, like, let's say if you're a caster, it's really good to track that. Alright, so for Druid, I have Frenzied Regen. This is their big heal cooldown, so it's good to track these. Mighty Bash, very important. Incapacitating Roar is good to track as well. Druids now have this baseline, so it's good to be tracking this as their CC. Maim is actually a good one to track too, so definitely track Maim for their stun. Innervate is good as well. If you have a Purge, if you're on a Purge class, purging Innervate off of Druids is very important, so try to watch out for Innervate and then purge that off so they don't get some free mana casting for 10 seconds. Renewal is their big heal, which is good. Celestial Alignment is a big boomy damage. You want to be tracking this. Barkskin and Thorns, very important. Barkskin is a good defensive, and Thorns for melee. It's good to track this. And also, if you have a Purge, it's good to purge Thorns off too. Tree of Life is good to track. Solar Beam, really important, especially if you're a Windwalker or maybe like a Priest or a Ret Pally or any sort of Pally. You can like Tiger's Lust your healer out of Root Beams, you can Freedom them, and you can Mass Dispel these. So tracking Solar Beam is very important. All the Incarnations is good to track as well, same with Vortex and Ironbark. Alright, so for Hunter, Intimidation, really good to track this stun. Scattershot, good for Marksman. Turtle is their big defensive cooldown. It's really good to track this. Feign Death as well. So you know they're actually dead and they're not just feign deathing. Disengage is really good to track, like let's say as a melee, so you can save some mobility for their disengage. Freezing Traps, super important to know when they are going to be trapping your healer. Harpoon is the Survival Hunter mobility. Dire Beast is a big Beast Mastery Hunter cooldown, so it's good to be aware of this. Master Skull is their freedom. Exhilaration is their heal. Aspect of the Eagle is for Survival Hunters, where they can attack at range, so it's good to keep track of this. And people don't really run Murder of Crows right now, but it's good to track it in case it becomes meta. Alright, so for Mage, Displacement's really good for the Arcane Mage Blink. Dragon's Breath, super important. Blink for mobility. It's good to track Combustion, Icy Veins, and Arcane Power. Super important. You're going to want to be trading out defensive cooldowns for this or trying to line of sight it. Or if you're a caster and can purge, definitely try to purge these 3 abilities off Mage. Ice Block, super important to track. Frost Nova, especially as a Windwalker, you want to be Tiger's listing yourself out of every Frost Nova if you can, and same with your images. You don't want to be throwing out your images before Frost Nova, because if you image, then you'll just get Nova'd on them, and your images will be useful for 8 seconds. Ice Barrier, really good to purge this. If you have Purge. Mass Invis is good to track for Arcane Mages. Ring of Frost, Temporal Shield, super important to purge, and Frozen Orb for Frost Mages, big damage. Alright, so for Monk, Storm, Earth, and Fire, this is their big damage. Same with Fortifying Brew, their Port. You don't really need to track Roll and Flying Serpent Kick because they're going to be up so often. I feel like it just take up space on your Omnibar, which is unnecessary. Touch of Death is good in case they use Touch of Death, if they waste it, or if they use it on you when you Karma low. It's good to know that. Fortifying Brew as well. Life Cocoon is good for Mistweavers, and Incap and Leg Sweep for their CCs. Touch of Karma and Diffuse is super good to track their defensives, and that's really all you need for Monk. Alright, so for Pally, Avenger's Shield, if you're versing these pesky prots in arenas, then you definitely want to be tracking it, especially if you are a caster, because they can actually silence you with Avenger's Shield, so it's good to track this. Avenging Wrath, very important. HPAL with really big heals if they use this, and a Ret Pally has really big damage. So you want to be disarming the Ret Pally on their Avenging Wrath or trying to kite it out, or just trade a defensive cooldown on this and be very careful of this. Blessing of Sanctuary, Ret Pallies can remove all stun, silence, fear, and horror effects from their allies, which is very important to track. Or if you're going to be CCing the healer with some of these effects, you want to be cross CCing the Ret as well, so he's not able to sank their healer out of that. Divine Favor, super good to track, especially if you are a Purge class. I track it as a Windwalker because if I'm playing with a Purge class, it is very good if I incap the HPAL on their Divine Favor, and it gives my teammates time to purge it off so they don't get this big Holy Light. Next, you don't need to track Repentance because it's a 15-second cooldown, it's really short, but Hammer of Justice, super important. Bop, Sack, Freedom, very important to purge Bop and Freedom, and just know when they are getting sacked. Eye for an Eye is the Ret Pally's parry, sort of defensive. It doesn't like fully parry, but it's a nice physical damage reduction, so it's good to not DPS into this if you can. Shield of Vengeance is a big absorb for Ret Pallies. Divine Protection is the HPAL's wall. Divine Shield, very important to track. Blinding Light, a good CC, and that's all you need for Pally. Priest, it's good to be tracking Pain Suppression, Power Infusion. You can purge this off, so if you are a Purge class, definitely try to purge this off, or if you're a Mage, try to spell steal the Power Infusion. Gives you a nice big buff for that. Fade is good to track for Holy Priest and Shadow Priest, so they don't greater fade any of your abilities. If you are a caster, like let's say a Warlock with Fears, a Mage with Polymorph, or a Shaman with Hex, it's good to track Shadow Word Death, so you can fake the death and land a full Sheep Hex or Fear and not get your CC death by the Priest. Mind Bomb, super good. Psychic Stream, 2 good CCs. Dark Archangel is good to track for Disc. You want to be you want to respect the damage of Dark Arc. Everyone gets a 15% damage increase on this. So yeah, you definitely have to respect this Dark Arc cooldown. It is very good. Guardian Spirit, Holy Priest, big defensive. Rapture. If you're fighting a Disc, you want to be trying to purge a Rapture shields off or CC the Disc on as Rapture, because if you don't have any CC for the Priest and you can't purge, you probably aren't going to kill through Rapture shields. They're very strong. Dispersion is good to track for Shadow Priest. Psychic Core for CC. Power Word Barrier, again, as a monk, you can Ring of Peace this and rop them out of it. It's very good to track this. Silence. Holy Ward, to either purge this or incap it off so you can't, so they don't immune your stun. But normally you want to just try to purge it off if you can. Life Grip is good to track too. Psyfiend, really important to kill these right away. Life Swap and Premonition, same thing as Death. Alright, so for Rogue, I have Shadowy Duel. I have Riposte. This is Outlaw Rogue's parry, or like the Outlaw's version of Evasion. Kidney Shot, very important to track. So since the Sub Rogue is the meta spec on Rogue to run, what's going to happen is every CC go, they're going to Kidney Shot your healer and then Shadow Dance, triple cheap shot the kill target. So it's really important to track Kidney Shot to know when the Rogue is going for their CCs. So you want to disrupt that like with like a Disarm or like a Ring of Peace, or if they Kidney Shot your healer, it's good to try to kite out the Rogue and make sure he's not able to cheap shot you so you don't get cross CC'd. Shadow Step really good to track for their mobility, Vanish as well. Between the Eyes, this is the Outlaw version of a Kidney Shot. So if you see any Outlaw Rogues, it's good to be tracking this. Blind is very important to track. Cloak of Shadows, Evasion, good defensives. Adrenaline Rush is the it's the Outlaw damage button, and then Grappling Hook is the Outlaw mobility. Shadow Dance is good to track for sub rogues because when they go for the Kidney Shot on the healer, if you see Shadow Dance, you are going to get cheap shotted 3 times, and they're going to be doing a lot of damage to you. Shadow Blades is the big damage button for sub rogues, good to track this. Vendetta is the big assassination damage button. Smoke Bomb is good to track as well. Alright, for Shaman, you want to be tracking the Ascendants. Very important for Enhance. Elemental doesn't really run Ascendant. Stormkeeper is much better. And for Resto, for big heals. So if you're fighting an Enhancement Shaman, you want to be disarming or CCing him on the Ascendants. It does a very big damage at the moment. And you don't want to be trying to tank this damage. You have to trade out a defensive cooldown for this as soon as possible. Or you want to be trying to line of sight or just crowd control them on the Ascendants. Very important. I'm actually going to track Sky Fury here. It's good to kill Sky Fury totems very fast if you can. Bloodlust for Enhancement Shamans because they have the PvP talent that they can use this in Arena. So if you have a Purge, you want to be trying to purge this off of the DPS with Bloodlust, or just trying to crowd control them or use some utility to stop them, or trade out a defensive cooldown. And also for Ascendants, if a Resto Shaman pops Ascendants, unless you can CC him on it, he is going to be pumping out big heals, so you don't want to commit any more cooldowns or CC if they pop Ascendants, unless you can get the kill. Cap Totems are good to track to kill Cap Totems as soon as you can. Same with Grounding Totem. Earthen Wall is a big defensive for Resto Shaman. So like let's say for example if you're a monk, if you see Earthen Wall Totem, you don't want to be popping your images into Earthen Wall. It absorbs a bit of damage from each attack, so like the extra attacks from 2 more images is going to be reduced by a lot. So you want to sort of try to hold your big damage if they Earthen Wall before you've committed any cooldowns, or if you pop something and they Earthen Wall, it's good to swap to a target that is outside of Earthen Wall. Earth Grab Totem, really good to kill this. And let's say if you're a monk, you don't want to be pressing your images before Earth Grab, because what they can do is you pop your images, then a shaman can just Earth Grab your images, and then they will be useful or useless for 8 seconds. I'm going to track Windfury Totem too here. You want to try to kill this as soon as you can. Lightning Lasso, good to track for Ellie Shamans. Spirit Link Totem, you want to be killing this, and tracking it for Resto Shamans just to know when they have their big defensive cooldown. And Thunderstorm for Ellie, knockback. Counter-Strike Totem, you want to kill this right away. And Astral Shift their wall. Stormkeeper for big Ellie damage. And we're moving on to Warlock. Alright, so you want to be tracking Nether Ward. If you are a caster, it's good to purge this off. Or try not to cast any big damage into it and get reflected on you. Unending Resolve is their big lock wall. They're immune to interrupts, and they take 40% damage reduction at max level. It says 20% here in the tooltip because they get a passive benefit that brings it up to 40%. Summon Infernal is Destrolock's big damage, and it's a stun. Axe Toss is a Demonology's pet stun, which stuns you for 4 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. Havoc is really good. If you have a D-Curse, and you see a Warlock Havoc a target, he's going to coil the other target, and that Havoc target will get coiled as well. So if you can decurse this Havoc, then you can avoid getting coiled, or avoid the target being Havoced getting coiled if you dispel that off. Soul Harvest is damage. I think it's for Demo or something. Like, you want to track this for damage, and both the Dark Souls for Destro and for Affliction. Howl of Terror and Mortal Coil, 2 instant CCs that you want to be tracking for sure. You don't really need to track Shadow Fury because it's castable. You can see it coming, but these are the instant CCs that you have to watch out for Warlock. And lastly, for Warrior, you want to track their Fear, their Parry. You could track their Charge, but I don't think you have to. Rallying Cry is good to track as well for a defensive spell reflect, really important. Intercept is their Intervene, so you don't want to get so warriors can intervene and then spell reflect some things as well. So if they have these 2 buttons up, you just have to be careful if you're going for a CC on the healer, like a Sheep or a Hex or a Fear, because they can intervene, then spell reflect that back onto you. Sharpened Blade is good. You're going to be taking a lot of healing reduced when they cast this on you, so you want to be trying to save. Like, if you're a healer healing, you want to save like your big heals for after Sharpen if you can, or if you're a DPS, you want to try to be kiting this out and try not to get damaged too hard on Sharpen, because your healer won't be able to heal you through it. Or same if you have like if you're Kyrian, you use your file, you want to wait till after Sharpen to use this so you get the most effect out of your file. Heroic Leap is good to track so they can't leap across the map on you, so you know when that's coming. Recklessness is really good for disarming, same with Avatar and Colossus Smash. If you see any of these, you want to be disarming this if you can, and Stormbolt is their good CC that they have every 4 seconds, and you want to be tracking this. You can track Bladestorm, but I don't really think it's very necessary to track. And also, you can track a Disarm if you're maybe a melee with a main hand. As Monk, I don't really need to track Disarm because Disarm doesn't really affect me in any way. But yeah, that is my Omnibar guide. That's just how I have my Omnibar set up. If you have any questions, you can come to my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/ZugZugTV. I stream live on it quite often, so if you have any questions, just stop by and ask me, and I'll be sure to answer them. Or if you want to just see some high-rated Windwalker PvP, you can stop by and see that as well. I also do some viewer games, so we can maybe play some games. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.